We're going to go to Monticello next, where Blaine has a question about Congressman Bishop's lands bill. Blaine, you're on the line with Senator Lee.
Hello, Blaine.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you. Appreciate you visiting with us today.
You bet.
So my question was right along what you were getting started in on there. I'm a farmer here in the Monticello San Juan area, and also part of the Farm Bureau, the local Farm Bureau here. And so, since this lands bill initiative that you mentioned that Rob Bishop started, I know it's changed a lot, and I don't know that we would even recognize it as what it was when it was first presented to us a couple years ago. But I was wondering if you could just fill us in on a little more detail on where we are on that, where you stand with it, and what that's going to do for us with this ultimate goal of getting these federal lands turned over to the states and getting control of them.
Okay, thank you, Blaine. First of all, one of the things this does is to protect grazing rights. So many Utahns, particularly Utahns in your part of the state, are struggling with the fact that the federal government is inconsistent in how it treats people who operate on grazing leases. I'm sure this is an important issue to you and to many people that you know. The PLI legislation would help protect those rights. It would also help protect energy development, protect access to recreational uses on federal public lands. The idea behind this is to address in the affected counties those uses that have been identified as appropriate uses for the land in question. Now, look, I want to be very clear. We're not talking about opening up national parks for drilling. That's not what we're dealing with here. We're talking about land that is just sort of garden variety BLM land, but that can be used and probably should be used for energy exploration and development, in some cases for recreational uses in others. In other cases still, we've identified other lands as lands that deserve some degree of protection from use, that need to be protected by federal law so that they remain more or less untrammeled by man. But in each instance, we're identifying what the land is, and we're undertaking a policy that would be more consistent with the interests of the people of our state. You see, for too long, these decisions have been made at the regulatory level, at the administrative bureaucrat level, and ultimately made by people who are not Utahns and who have no permanent lasting bond or connection with our land. People who answer to those based in Washington, D.C. and not based in Utah. What we're trying to do is to gain input, as we have throughout this process, from citizens throughout our state on what our land use needs are relative to federal public land. Now, I do believe that this is a shorter term exercise, one that will open up some land right now that is currently off limits to certain activities that are appropriate, whether it's grazing or energy development or recreation or something else. I think a more intermediate solution is the one I referred to a few minutes ago, is legislation that would entitle taxing jurisdictions within the state, in the case of our state, counties, to collect at their choosing the property tax equivalent of what they would receive if this land were in private ownership. Then there's a long-term solution, which I'm also pushing for, which would involve widespread transfer of federal public land ownership and management authority over to the state of Utah. I believe that these decisions long-term need to be made at the state level, and that it's simply wrong, it's inconsistent with the vision and the structure of our constitutional republic to have this much of our land owned and managed by a government that is thousands of miles from the people affected by those decisions.